Okay, this is Robin Sands. We're back on the bug project. We discovered that watching YouTube doesn't exactly teach you everything. Mistakes are costly, so I'm broke. Anyway, the mistake I made was not learning about more about flash time and nozzle tips for primering. Apparently there's nozzle tips specifications for different types of paint, and the thicker the paint, the bigger your nozzle tip. We were painting and priming this bug with a 1.4, and our flash time, it kind of, the what you call it, atomization of the paint was spraying out in too thin of particles. The paint was flashing before it hit the car. It came off on a powdery finish that you could just wipe your hands over it and it would flake right off. Kind of like this floor right here is kind of powder, but some of it did stick. So I had to go over this whole car and knock off the powdery substance with the Scotch-Brite, which is this red, like a Brillo pad, but it's made out of some sort of fabric. And then when I went over that, I had to 320 it and get it all the way down and get it to where it's smooth again, and we can I went over every nook, cranny, every hole, and kind of not a bad thing is it's a scratch and dent high build type of primer. So the more I prime and sand this thing, the slicker this and smoother the finish is going to be when it goes on. So I have learned a whole lot on this experience. This is my first time ever doing something like this. I've done little hit and miss jobs on my own tree trucks, but you know, a tree truck really doesn't have to be that specific. But when you're restoring something like this, that stuff counts, every little detail. We've done a lot of Bondo patch work on small areas on this bug that you really can't see because of all the scratch or the high build primer that we put on it and sand it off, and it builds up the craters and the crevices up to where when you sand over the surface, what stays inside the scratches will be the same level as your surface. So the more you put this on there, it fills all those scratches, and you can sand it down to the scratch, and the scratch will eventually disappear. And whenever you sand this stuff down, you can see darker spots, which these dark spots on here now are because I didn't have enough primer yesterday when I reprimed it to finish, and the stores were closed. So I'm hoping that I have enough time to go over this today with 2 full coats without having to sand this thing down again. I should have prepared and got more paint than I needed, or more primer than I needed. But we're going to do this today with 2 quarts of this MP282, and looks like 2 different cans, but same thing. But we're going to go over it again with that and get it down to where all we have to do is go over it with the Scotch-Brite and then a 500 or 600, I think we got a 500 grit wet sandpaper before we have to paint it. But I'm going to put the floor pans in before we paint it. I just want to get all this priming and sanding and bondoing and all that stuff done. So this is my last paint as far as the primer goes. This is my last 2 coats. You see all these guns up here that I've been through, the different size tips, and these guns are, well, they're kind of ready to be thrown away. Went and bought one yesterday just for priming, which this tip on this thing is a 1.8. The 1.8 is for spraying the heavy liquids, and this is a suction type gun, and it sucks it up out of the can, that takes higher pressure, which you can see on here, 40 to 50 pounds of pressure at the gun for a conventional gun. There's a HVLP type gun that only takes 8 to 10. The 40 to 50 psi gun puts a lot of overspray in the air because it shoots it out harder and it has to suck it up, and a lot of it goes in the air, and you got to have some really good masks to mask all that. And we've got a HVLP, a high pressure or a high volume low pressure gun. This is a gravity feed type gun. This is the one I shot it with the first time. This is made by Ingersoll Rand. I do have another one up here that is a Cobalt. This is the one I'm gonna do the base coat, middle coat. It's a 3-stage paint. Middle coat, which is the pearl, and the last coat, which is a primer. The primer's really, not the primer, I'm sorry, the clear coat. That clear coat is the really high dollar stuff that gives you your everlasting look on this stuff. But we're getting ready to go ahead and shoot it, getting everything prepped and all my paints and thinners and hardeners mixed. I'm going to leave a little bit less of the hardener on in this so I can get a more of a wet look. The MH283 is a hardener. You're supposed to mix 1 whole can of this to 1 whole can of that, and then equivalent can of this of the reducer to get you what specs are supposed to be at about a 70-degree day. It's a little bit hotter than 70 today, so I'm going to mix it instead of 4 to 1 to 1 to 1. I'm going to mix it 4 to 1 to 1/2 or maybe 3/4. That way it doesn't dry so fast because of the temperature outside. So we will get this done, and it's a nice day. The wind's not blowing, everything's settled, so I'm just going to leave the doors open on this one, not even worry about air filters and all that stuff. I do want to get my fans going so I can get some filtration. I mean, not filtration, but air movement to get these fumes out of here so I won't be stuck in a cloud. But we'll come back at you on the next video of I'm sure we're going to have one after this thing's finished primed, and then I'm going to get it in there and start working on them floor pans. It wasn't that hard to get them out, but the new ones look a little bit different, so we'll see what happens on that. Until next video, we'll see you.